Today, we are talking about outside scholarships. That is sort of a catch-all term for really any kind of free money that you get as a law student or as a law school applicant that doesn't come from your law school. I am Alice. I am the Director of Pre-Law Programming for Montgomery Admissions Consulting, a brand of Barrier Breakers, Inc. We specialize in first-generation and minority law school application support with the goal of breaking down barriers for education access. If you are getting ready to make your law school decision right now, you've sent your applications in, decisions are starting to come back. A lot of them may have a financial aid award with them. You may start getting those from schools that do that after the fact right around now. Usually they start coming out in February or March. And if you haven't gotten a chance to look over those yet, you will see it soon. Lots of schools are going to give you something. That is typically merit-based aid. That means it's going to be tied almost exclusively, not always, but almost exclusively to your GPA and your LSAT. There's a lot more to you than that. There are a lot more great qualities and there are a lot more reasons for you to get funding. Some law schools will do need-based aid as well. That is just demonstrated financial need. Financial information, whether it's you, your parents, guardians, whoever is helping you live your life right now, they're going to ask a couple of extra questions. They may pull their financial information in, where the FAFSA, which you should all fill out, even if you don't plan on taking loans, do it anyway. It's free. It's good information for the law schools to have. Trust me. That doesn't ask for anything from your family. It's just you. Ground rules laid. We're good. Outside scholarships, though, these are things you have a lot more control over because a lot of different qualities other than your GPA and your LSAT matter here. It's going to depend a lot on who's funding the scholarship, what it is you want to do. There are a whole host of things that go into this. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that you are getting money that you typically do not have to pay back that will help fund your law school, which ideally makes it less expensive. And that is what we are always after. We always, always, always want less expensive for law school. So you've gotten your acceptance letter. You maybe didn't get a merit scholarship, but you've done some cool stuff. Now is the time that we start looking for outside scholarships. First things first, I want you to sit. I want you to take some inventory. What makes you you? What have you been involved in? I want you to think about your race, your heritage, your ethnicity, the organizations that you have been involved in, the extracurriculars that you did while you were in college, any volunteering work that you do at your job or, again, in college. All of that stuff is going to be important here. Make a list if you want to. Take a peek through your resume. Figure out what you put on your law school application because you had to list that stuff out at some point during this process already. Think big. Think back through all of the things that you have done. Once you have that list, that's going to do some of the guidance for you. And when I say think broad, I really do mean it. When I was working in law school admissions, this is a conversation that I had a lot with my applicants, particularly the ones that came in and were like, look, I really want to come here. I know that my GPA isn't that great, and I totally understand why I'm not getting a merit-based scholarship, but is there anything else that I can do? I want to be here. I know that I will get the best education here, but I'm not sure I can justify taking out the amount of loans I will need if there is nothing else helping me out. And then I got to have a really fun conversation that's kind of sound like kind of what we're going to do here, but it always started with, have you considered outside scholarships? No, I've never heard of that. What are you talking about? It was always shocking to me how little attention was paid to these things. I don't know if they just weren't really a thing in college. It's not something you just assume that like the financial aid letter is that's it and you're done. But most students were surprised when I talked them through this. It depends entirely on you. Who you are, where you come from, what you've done, what you may want to go do. And those things have nothing to do with your GPA or your LSAT score. Think through. Then, once you've got all of that gathered up, whether it's written out on paper, you're keeping it in your brain, however you want to do it, then we start building a list of places that we're going to go look. We're going to look backwards. Every organization that you've ever been involved with, every volunteer activity you have ever done, somebody sponsored that. You joined a sorority or fraternity in college, the Rotary or the Lions Club. You were a legislative page for your state. Legislative page. That's young. That's back in like elementary and middle school. Think back far, because most of the places that were responsible for whatever the volunteer, whatever the membership, whatever that is, most of those places have some type of foundation or some type of scholarship fund. Unfortunately, they aren't always super well publicized. If you have been a member kind of in name only, you do the things you absolutely need to do to maintain membership, but you're not a super active member right now for whatever reason. There are plenty of good reasons for that. If you are just kind of like, I am a member, that is it, I'm not super involved, I'm not looking through all of the emails, I'm not reading them word for word, that's fine. But it does mean that you will likely miss out on things like this. For example, in my own personal life, I just finished up writing letters of recommendation for women that I advise in a sorority chapter. They are applying for undergraduate scholarships and graduate scholarships. Both are very involved for at least part of their membership in the organization, and the hope is that they will be able to get some money back. That will defray the cost of one of them is going to dental school, the other one is finishing up her last year in college. Lots of organizations have that. And again, it's not always super well publicized, but it's probably there. The other thing that I want to touch on really quickly, because this is something that was very important to me, and it was a large part of why I made some of the choices that I did before I came to law school, is that there are a lot of kind of like major commitment volunteer organizations. I'm thinking AmeriCorps, I'm thinking Teach for America, I'm thinking Peace Corps. You are giving up a fair amount of your life to these organizations, and if that's something that fits into your plans, awesome. One of the benefits, and they usually talk about it a lot because it is a big benefit. One of the benefits of working with an organization like any of those in some capacity is that they have what they call their education awards. They may call it something slightly different. AmeriCorps calls it an education award. At the successful completion of whatever service it is that you are doing, they have money that will go directly to whatever educational institution you are attached to. And it can be used for anything. You can use it towards tuition. You can use it for books. As long as it is something that can be paid out to your educational institution, and you did your work, you held up your end of the deal, you get a rather sizable education award at the end of all of it, and you can use that for something. You don't even have to apply, you just got to do whatever the job is that you signed up to do. And it's just there at the end. So keep that in mind. You want to lean on all of the connections that you have made. I talked about writing letters of rec for some of the women that I advise. One of my friends in law school was fairly involved in her county government. Small county. This is not shocking given where we are both from. And her county had money set aside for students going specifically to law school. Not many people were applying for that award. So in some years, all she had to do was show them that she was still in law school. And I'm not saying it was a huge, several thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars award, but every little bit counts. So think through the connections that you have built in your life up to this point. If you're in college and you are lucky enough to be in a school that's fairly well resourced, and there is a pre-law organization, I'm looking at you, Phi Alpha Delta. If there is an office that their whole job is to help students apply for scholarships for graduate and professional school, sometimes it's called pre-professional, it does a whole host of things, but at the end of the day, what they are trying to do is work with students to make sure that they can send in applications to, again, national scholarship things like Rhodes or Boren or something along those lines. And then also some smaller, more local, more specific ones. If that office exists on the campus that you currently are on, go talk to them. I don't care if you have not talked to them yet, and it is midway through your very last semester. Go talk to them. They may not have anything that is specific for law school, but it cannot hurt. And our goal here is to not pay for law school. So if a walk across your campus and 10 minutes talking to someone who's probably pretty nice nets you a list of scholarships that you would be eligible for that can be used for something like law school, like professional school, like books, whatever it is, that can pay off so well. Please take the time to do that. If you are in a pre-law organization, make sure you are digging through all of the benefits of membership. Scholarship eligibility is oftentimes one of them. If your organization does not have particular scholarship, they may know where to point you also. Use these connections that you have built up to this point. For those of you in the working world that are not sitting on a college campus right now and not worried about midterms right now, see if there's a professional development office or a professional development committee, something along those lines. The folks that are responsible for making you better humans in addition to the work that you do for whatever organization that you work for. They may know. Depending on the organization that you work for, they may be able to help you fund this adventure. Whether that comes with a, we're really excited, we're going to invest in you, please go part-time so you can continue also doing your job. And if this is cool, let's go, we'll make it work. Or we love this idea for you, we'll have a job waiting, assuming you pass the bar, and we'll help you with this much funding each year. Or we'll make sure we pay, we'll pay for your books. Something along those lines. Many places have something like that set up. It's just not always advertised. But if you go looking, you can usually find something. All of it is based on the connections that you have made up to now. We're thinking back, we're taking inventory. What are the things that I have done in my life? What are the connections that I have made? How can I use them to help me pay for law school? Who are the people that I need to talk to? How can I get plugged in to money that exists in my organization for precisely this thing? Or at least professional school. Maybe not law school specifically, but you get it. Once you've gone through that, because everyone's got a past, it's time to start looking forward. Start thinking about what it is you want to do after law school. Who you want to work for. What organizations do you want to be supporting? What do you want to do? Many legal aid organizations, sometimes even the state bar organizations, lots of those places that you are looking forward to being a part of also have money, and they are willing to help you get to membership with them. Sometimes they are flat out scholarships. I know law firms all of the time. When I was still working at law schools, I got emails probably 3 times a week, if not more regularly, from firms all over the United States. We've got $1,000 that we need to give away to this person. Here's our application form. Or this type of person. Here's the application form. We're looking for somebody that's interested in working in intellectual property because that's what we specialize in. And if you have a student that can write 500 words about what it is they plan to do, send them our way. We have money to give away. Again, usually it's not a ton, but all of the little pieces do eventually add up. I mentioned state bar organizations. That's the one that I am most familiar with because it is a scholarship program that I worked fairly closely with throughout my time as an admissions officer. Many state bars are invested in filling the public interest sector in their state, or the public interest sector in whatever their jurisdiction is. It is pretty well known at this point, I don't think I'm sharing surprising news. When an attorney, when a legal graduate chooses to work in public interest, the likelihood of them making a very, very lucrative salary is not quite high. You're gonna make more if you go to a firm, but that's not what you want to do. That's not your path. It is not a secret that public interest doesn't pay super great. So places like the state bar step in to help. The easiest way and the earliest way for them to start helping is to help you pay for law school. Like I said, the scholarship program that I am most familiar with deals specifically like this. We want students who are graduating and coming into the public interest sector. We want them going to work for legal aid organizations within the state. We're going to help them do that by making sure that law school is not a huge financial burden for them, or at least is a smaller financial burden. There's an application process. This one is fairly lengthy because it's a fairly large award, or it was a fairly large award. I assume it still is. There's an interview, and when a student is chosen, they are given a certain amount of money for every year of law school, with one small condition, which should not be a problem given the students that should be applying for the scholarship. And that condition is, for every year of law school that is funded, you agree to work at a legal aid organization within the state. 3 years of law school, 3 years of work. In this particular program, there is also support in finding a placement that would be eligible. So they're not just leaving you high and dry and being like, I looked, there's nothing. If, however, you choose by the time you are a third-year student to completely change what your plan was when you were coming into law school, and that happens all the time and is totally fine, do not fret. If you are in a program like this, what it means, though, is that if you opt out of those 3 years of legal aid work, public interest work, whatever it is, your scholarship becomes a loan. If you decide after your first year of law school that public interest is not where you want to live your life, it is not what you have in your future plans anymore, you can tell the people that have given you this scholarship. The scholarship will go away, but you're also only on the hook for 1 year's worth of a payout. Or you only have to work in public interest 1 year. You still get a salary. Nothing is different. It's exactly like you would walk into it without having, a loan or anything along those lines. You're still getting paid exactly the same way that you would be. It does not garnish your salary or anything along those lines. You are trading your skills and your practice time and your work for this funding. That's a fairly standard operating procedure for these types of things. We need this. We are going to support it in this way. We will help you pay for this. In return, you do this. You work for us. If public interest, particularly, that's usually where this shows up. If public interest is something that you are interested in, definitely talk to the state bar of the state in which you hope to practice. Again, for whatever reason, not all of these things are super publicized. I don't know why. As an admissions officer in the law school, it was very annoying because I just didn't have a list. I couldn't keep a running list of all of these things that I knew were going on. So some of it had to rest with the applicant, which is why I liked having this conversation and then pointing them in another direction and saying, go forth, use your brain. But here are the places you should look. Here are the things you should consider. The last place that you're going to find a lot of these are organizations that are dedicated in some kind of way to the financial health of law students, or financial literacy, financial health in graduate and professional school students, or higher education generally. Sometimes the population is attached, sometimes it's just generally by the time you come to grad school, if you have not lived out in the world as a grown-up for a minute, you have no idea what you're doing sometimes when you're signing a master promissory note, and we like to avoid that. So we're going to do the best that we can to make sure that you don't have to do that, one, or two, if you do, you know exactly what you're signing, and you understand what the consequences are if you decide that you don't want to play the student loans game after you have taken them. Again, usually related to a larger mission, again, higher education access, financial health, whatever it is. One of the easiest pieces for an organization like that, particularly if financial health is a key piece of their organization's mission or vision, is to provide resources like scholarships that lessen the debt load you have to take on in order to do this thing. In our case, at our company, our whole goal is to increase access to higher education. Financial health is not, at least not in my department, not my top priority. It's important. And the students that I work with while I'm consulting, we always talk about financial aid, and we always have this conversation. It's just a little more tailored, a little more personal. So they know what they have out there. They know what their options are. We do things like this. But we also have a running database of scholarships and fellowship programs that are available. It gets updated when we have a moment. I will be the first person to tell you that it is by no means complete, but it is always growing. That's us. The other organization that has a really, really robust database of scholarships that are not tied to schools is Access Lex. They have been working very hard for the last several years to make sure that they are the people for law school financial health and literacy. They do things in addition to just list out scholarships, but that is a key piece of what they are doing, just like it is a key piece of what we do here. One of the biggest barriers to entry for folks in looking to go into professional school, looking to go to grad school generally, looking to go to college, is that financial piece. All of these things are expensive. One of the easier ways for us to help is make sure that you understand the things that are out there to make sure that you don't have to pay full price. And then we do things like this. So hopefully you can go find them. I did want to pull on one last thing that I didn't mention earlier in that looking forward piece. Many interest areas. In my head, I'm thinking energy and environmental law because, again, those are the scholarships that I saw while I was working as a law school admissions officer. And honestly, while I was in school, friends of mine received scholarships like this based solely on interest area. If you know for sure, like earlier, I was talking about that intellectual property firm that said, we've got this money we want to give away. It's not always write us an essay about what you want to do. Sometimes it's demonstrated interest, and this may kick in after you have started law school. But if you have been volunteering with the Sierra Club, or I don't think you can volunteer with the Environmental Protection Agency, but maybe, regardless, you have got a lot in your background, a lot in your resume that shows that you are devoted to environmental protection and you want to go on to be a lawyer that helps protect the environment. If you can show that demonstrated interest, there may be money from an organization like Sierra Club, from a firm that specializes in energy and environmental law. All of these things exist out there for you. You just have to go looking. Chances are, if you stroll into a law school admissions office, whether before or after you've been admitted, and you ask them, where else can I look? They're going to tell you something very similar to what I just did. We can't maintain the database as admissions officers. We don't have the bandwidth to check every day. And these things pop up and change every day. We'd love to. Without fail, all of us would love to be able to do that. There are just only so many hours in the day. But we will happily point you in the right direction. So, as you are starting to compare financial aid offers, you are starting to plan out how you are going to pay for law school and how you are not going to have to pay all of the money back. Number one, inventory time. Who am I? What have I done? What connections do I have? Go way back. I mean it. Way back. Run through all of those things. Any organization you have been involved with, state and local, federal government stuff that you have done. There is money in so many different places. And if you have a connection, you may be eligible to have some of it. So we self-inventory, and then we look backwards. What connections have I made in my life up to this point? Once we run through that, we look forwards. What do I want to do? Why am I in law school? Why am I planning to go to law school? What change do I want to affect? What area of the law is interesting to me? What area of the law have I already been involved in that I'd like to continue my involvement with? And finally, and I know that the two that I mentioned, our organization and Access Lex, are not the only two. They're the ones that I know the best. This can be as simple as a quick Google search: law school financial literacy, law student financial health, law student outside scholarship. All of those places will get you started once you've run through the things that apply to you. The last just quick little thing. If you are on a college campus right now, this is where I saw this happen most regularly. College campuses call these different things. Outside scholarship is pretty standard. Third-party scholarship is another option. External scholarship. I realize that some of this sounds like common sense. These are all words that mean not of the thing that I am standing in, basically. But if outside scholarship doesn't get you the answers that you want, try third party, try external. Worst case scenario, you may have to explain money that does not come from here. So do not be alarmed if you do not see the words outside scholarship somewhere, or if your first round of Google searching doesn't come up with the things that you hope it does. Law school is expensive, but it doesn't always have to be. And there are plenty of places that are ready to help you defray the cost of your legal education. And most of the time, don't even look at your GPA and your LSAT. If this has been helpful, which I hope it was, if you know of a friend that may need help with this, send them the link. And I look forward to joining you again next week or the week after. Talk soon.